Hello, today I'm going to be reading some poetry out of my book, Chasing the Red. This was published in, I believe, 2014, published independently. Actually won I believe it was second place in the Summer Indie Book Awards of 2016. So, award-winning poetry book, which was cool. That was exciting. And my other book, Faces in Still Waters, won second place in the horror category too. So that was really exciting. So there's just a couple poems and stuff I wanted to read out of this today. I'll have to, I'm trying to look for one in particular. So, there we go. All right. The first one is Saturday Morning Cartoons. A foghorn Jay Leghorn, that wise old bird. Yep, 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 keep that mouth flappin' and do no listenin'. Looney Tunes reels, reeling down the wayside, with perpendicular lines propagating hatred and insolence for children, and bigoted remarks of politically bent ramblings. Oh, how we were corrupted as children, our generation doomed, as we suckled at the baby boomers' teat. Sometimes it's better not to see how far we have come, to vilify our beloved Bugs and Tweety, who enunciated every word with the subtlest inflection of cunning sarcasm. Sometimes it's better not to see that the world can no longer take a joke, to watch as insensitivity runs rampant at every other opportunity, where one deems themselves right while the rest of the world is wrong. Perceptions vary, lives, backgrounds, heritages, traditions, working in a multicultural world with multilateral ways of thinking, simultaneous things with unilateral meanings and correspondence through misrepresentation of misinformation, plugging up the holes in stories, plaguing the world with borrowed information for research, citing the source as your own, then pointing the finger when found it was wrong. It wasn't your fault. You were following the crowd. To get that A on your master thesis, you went to the dark side, Padawan. No future as a Jedi for you. Or because you drank water from the tap outside, the hose crying the water from lead pipes that are broken across kneecaps because that motherfucker wouldn't stop running. It was because he was black, yellow, orange, green, blue, rainbow, with ideas that all men are created equal without the opportunity of women, for their vagina carries with it the epicenter of where all children claim is God. Women equipped with breasts and hips swaying, and they claim that she asked for it with every curve of her lip and every light in her smile. It couldn't be the way she was dressed. Nope, not with that body. That sentient being whose translucent blouse made way for the imagination to soar. No, men need to control themselves, their temper from the temptress, the unaccountable actions. Someone else was at fault. Yet, Saturday morning cartoons, where characters are depicted as idiots and hilarity is perverted into the obscene, where an infant becomes the hero, the coveted character whose penchant for matricide is applauded, a bender whose all-night benders beseech the amusement of younger generations that believe an MIP is no big deal, and to hell with enjoying young youth and innocence. Political correctness, unisex bathrooms, unisex clothing, and multi-sex agenda, where it's acceptable to fuck your way through ranks. Everyone is equal until they throw a fit for a minor slight, when their so-called rights are impugned upon, because there is a Christmas tree at Christmas, and not a single holiday beer can pull that every frat boy can pay homage to with every DUI they receive. That is what is important after all. Common decency is absurdly a thing of the past. Chivalry is dead, yet I was not invited to its funeral. The pyre still burns the memories of it, for we can recollect that once upon a time, then we pay homage to whatever God is ours, and we have that right, while others are crucified for theirs. Our tabloid God of the week stares off into nonsensical ideology that an ass pressed against a camera will allot more tissues to wipe it after the shit blows over. And then there is a scandal that stands in the pulpit, Hypocrisy and the Bible are lost in a sleight of hand in translation, perception, where we take what we need and leave the rest. Start wars and pull out so as not to impregnate the world with yet another defunct child. Leave it to the fosters to foster enlightenment and hope they don't fight when the parents aren't home. Left at a home, or in a car, left to rot in a room, where parents are splayed with needles in arms and track marks that appear like earthworms crawling, carrying them along the rails of that train whose whistle blew and left the country because they did the right thing. Starving children and addicts locked in rooms, while food stamps pay for the bags of weed and coke and the cola, the proper fixings made in a dark alleyway where nothing sinister happens until a child appews upon the life of another and causes the controversy of a race that no one can win. The standards are met in Technicolor on a backlit screen where class once held a position in this world and sever the lines of lies we snort on a daily basis. Our world is getting better by twerking your way to popularity and sacrificing dignity and self-respect for an image that garners attention instead of talent. Sometimes it's better not to see that those in ruin can stay there, while those who have are unwilling to give, and if they do, it's for a tax deduction, or so they can make a scene on social media, assholery for a good cause. They jump in at the tide and neglect to come up for air, paying for the wages of those whose good deeds, the dead, the dying, the diseased, would hope to turn a profit for a CEO in conformity, do-gooders who think they make a difference with pocket change instead of direct action and holding themselves accountable. The every little bit helps feeds the ones already fed and not those who are still starving while they watch the remnants of Saturday morning cartoons, watching Bugs poke fun at the political regime, dressed in black with big long ears, but not because he's a rabbit. That is how every political caricature depicts our dear president. Political cartoons are acceptable, but the long-eared, clever, and ridiculously funny rabbit, God forbid our children get in on the joke. After all, it is their future to be a part of it, and perhaps if they're lucky, they'll get the joke instead of being the brunt of it. And I quoted, it's Foster Warner, who's the writer, and McKimson, Robert, director, 1950, a Fractured Leghorn television series episode, and Edward Seltzer's executive producer, Looney Tunes, Burbank, California, Warner Brothers. And that was the first line of the poem. Or no, the third line of the poem. So needed to quote that. Give credit where credit is due. So there you have that poem. Pardon me. All right. This next one is a more of a lyrical poem. It's a poem story. And it's called Go Fish for an Atheist. My name is George Umber, and just last summer, my body was cast under flame. Though it spitted and sputtered, my wife she did utter, without you, life won't ever be the same. Through 4 packs a day, not a person could sway my imminent choice to inhale. The ribbon of smoke surely did choke and incited a frothy exhale. For years I did pit against all those all too quick, the reasons behind my poor choice. As seasons turn gold, the memories unfold, weakness in my old haggard voice. Emphysema and cancer, my health a dancer, spinning circles and pirouetting through bouts of chemicals and radiation, maintaining my station, the door to my life singled out. My wife she could not bear to see me laying there, buried neck deep in wrinkled linen, acrid scent of urine in the air, and the stillness of death everywhere. She left to find her own new beginning. So I was left all alone. Look what mercy has shown. Suppose it's a blessing she's gone at least. For the years of deceit with my soul running deep, guess now she's found her own way of peace. My kids are all grown and have families of their own. I was never one of those coddling types. They spread their wings far and wide. My cantankerous soul they could never abide. Couldn't tolerate my geriatric gripes. I'm sorry. As I look back into my past, some would think it so sad how I took it for granted the light of my life. The only light I could name was my lighter in the flame. My fix was a break from the strife. The door then had opened, the button I was groping, to call the nurse into my room. I needed something stronger, the will to live, to devour, morphine my only friend within this haze of gloom. In walked Dr. Freeman, though I could hardly see him, my vision was failing, you see, for all was a blur and existence absurd, but too stubborn was I to take heed. Mr. Umber, I see, aren't you glad to see me? He said with the cock of his head. His cheerfulness did disgust, with a grunt a reply I must, to at least let him know I wasn't dead. Yet, with a weak scowl and a guttural growl, as my gravelly voice dare whisper, "Yep, not yet for the worms, though as memory serves, I aim to go by the way of the incinerator. Some people never change, which is why your family's estranged," the doc said as he flipped over my charts. "The situation has taken a turn for the worse, as you've learned. It won't be long until you finally depart." I watched without word as he called in a nurse with a pressure bag of fluid to replace. Nasal cannula with its hose burning oxygen through my nose, dry throat cracking like a slate. She pulled forward my head, my face buried in breast. 2 40-year lumps smelled of roses. She smiled and hushed, brought warm blankets and brushed back a few strands of red from her lenses. "Is there anything I can get you?" She spoke with the hue of an Irish woman's motherly grace. "No, thank you, ma'am, unless it's your hand in mine in front of a fireplace." "Mr. Umber, you flirt," she said with a jerk, as she smiled and laughed under breath. "But as destiny awaits the closing of gates, not long will she wake to my death." I smile all the same when she said my name, for it rolled off her tongue with such love. That woman who knew herself a divorcer too, and had bared her to her breast the foxglove. She pulled out a needle, my dear pain's upheaval, inserted into the intravenous line that led to my veins with the little blood that remains as I lay positioned supine. My mind was a blur through the pain. It's absurd that I feel anything in the least. The shadows on my jawline, fingers trace the outline, embraced within Morpheus's beast. Shallow I'm breathing, to young folk it's deceiving, whose rapid movement of chest singles out, who's awake and who's sleeping, and to mourners quietly reaping the benefits of those checking out. With this thought I smiled as I had already compiled my wishes and intentions that I named charities and scholarships to those ill-equipped, my penance for my lonely goodbye. I wasn't quite aware how long I'd endure this nightmare, this hellish purgatory for the dying. The hours went by while consciousness subsides. My innards felt like they were frying. When suddenly my eyes flitted open upon the moonrise, and settled upon me a hand. "Go fish," said a voice, and I shall not rejoice at the grisly sound of its command. To my right was a man whose delight at his hand smiled gently with a sunny demeanor. To my left was concave, shrouded darkness from the grave, the ghastly sight of the grim reaper. "Is this how it's done? How souls are won? Over gambling and cards to play? Where is St. Peter? I thought death was the neither," I thought to my growing dismay. But my lips remained sealed. My destiny, a minefield, played with 7 cards with a pile between, laying soft on my stomach, a game played of my epoch, before my tired body is lain on sateen. "I'd like all of your jacks, as a matter of fact," said the jubilant man in a robe tunic that was lined with pure gold and hemmed with the foothold of the power of this heavenly cleric. The reaper, whose tone was laced with brimstone, crackled and spat smoke in a flute that danced with desire, a memory's fire, a cigarette within skeletal mouth, a tribute. Have one for me, I thought, though it was eerie how my mental wish had driven them to pause. With a triumphant chuckle, my boat of life began to buckle, reaper's fingers over my chest like a saw. With a rushing flood in one lung, it thus has begun. The trial for my soul is the trophy. For the good-humored man at my right was pained at the sight of my earthly desires, my dinghy. For what kept me afloat was in fact my scapegoat, my inherent nature for me to renounce. Those so-called Christians, hypocrites they had been, some more evil than those they discount. So many I had seen flash across the TV screen. On the news, they used religion as chains to control those weak and with thought of to defeat through wars from which they could gain. I did not believe, nor could I conceive, of a supreme and merciful God, who's all knowing and all seeing, could give evil, even fleeting, power to that damnable jihad. Although funny, I should say it's a struggling gateway, a duty to those ignorant of the truth that is ours and meant to devour our lives, intentions, and judgments. My beliefs were transient, my discrimination quite flagrant, and for that I truly do regret. For there are those whose intent, God-fearing souls, hell-bent on saving me from my current threat. Upon relinquishment of Jacks, the old man with the stack smiled again with hope evident. His faith had not waned, though my thought slipped arraigned his intentions for me after life's ill-fated vagrant. I'd like all of your aces, please. Are his manners a tease? I thought as I dared to look at the reapers whose eyes were not of the divine, but portholes covered in ashen nainsook. Coiled within them were the creatures of sin, and the vile excrement of toil it ensnared. The longer I looked, the more my guilt unhooked, the root of humanity despaired. My skin became quite pallid, rumbling breath a ballad, as I face off to the ribbons of end. The angel at my right hand side has become a dear ally, and fought for my soul to ascend. From this I realized my existence was a guise to hide from what I did not understand, nor care to take notice the blooming of the lotus that had appeared within the swampland. They call this place earth, and for all that they're worth, humanity is destined to learn. The truth is at the hour when we ourselves become sour and realize that our reality is merely a sojourn. As the game drew to a close and my health had plateaued, bordering the cusp of expiration, the books of 4 cards will end with a petard, my misdeeds on this earth as Steinman. For all who had or had not known, friends, colleagues who had cast the first stone, and educated with appreciating the bindings that hold heaven's gate and compassion's fold, instead feed the devil souls for freighting. I'll find the truth when I die. Wait till then to see if God is a lie, is a foolish man's way to exist. For chances have it that be you'll end up just like me, cards splayed to see if your soul consists of what you're worth it to be, a true believer in He who spared me in an immediate one-way ticket to the hellfire that awaits to those whose mistakes had assisted the flame of the pilot. My name is George Umber, a once atheist mummer who smoked, drank, and sinned without care. I dissolved relationships with haste and thought love of life a waste. I learned, but my existence went nowhere. The truth in the divinity of Christ with sin cannot be spliced. God threw me a lifeline in time, given one last chance for me to advance, a crown and robe despite my crimes. Even after I shunned him and denounced his teachings on a whim, all because a few had misrepresented the true teachings of forgiveness and of love, of his love that parts the darkness, divinity and holiness cannot be rented. My eyes finally closed to the angel who knows that last-minute house calls are required, for I am as loved as a man who has shoved fistfuls of scripture unto any it would inspire. Any rational human being who can walk without seeing God is the Savior of all. And despite all my life, I was the cause of so much strife. He is here now with me as I fall. Reaper picked up his scythe and walked out sans his tithe, another soul to fill his lungs with smoke. And behold me, heaven's gate, my paradise await. Holy Spirit within me finally awoke. And that's all I have for you today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Sorry I was stumbling all over the words and stuff, but it was just something I wanted to share with you. I'll probably read some more another day or maybe tomorrow. I'm not sure, but thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And let me know what you think in the comments below. Take care and talk to you later. See ya.